It was social as a part of it. Is to me is just relating and having conversations with people. It's using the tools that are available to advance the sale and build relationships. But it's just, as times change and as tools change and as terms change, this wonderful word called social selling came to be. When in essence, sales has always been social and social has always been a part of selling.
Welcome to the Making Sales Social podcast, featuring the top voices in sales and marketing. Join hosts Brynne Tillman and Bill McCormick as they discuss the best tips and strategies they are teaching their clients so you can leverage them for your own virtual and social selling. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Play. Here are your hosts, Brynne Tillman and Bill McCormick.
Hey, so welcome to Making Sales Social. I'm Bill McCormick.
I'm Brynne Tillman.
So Brynne, who's our guest today?
Oh my gosh, I am so excited about this guest. Why? Because we have been friends for years on social, yet we have never even met in person. But I feel so connected to my good friend, Larry Levine. Hi, Larry.
Brynne, I full confession, I have a social love affair with Brynne Tillman.
Woo! Yeah, no, we connect on so many levels, both philosophically, the way that we go to market, the way that we think about relationships and authenticity. And so, I don't even know how long we've gone back, but it has to be 7-8 years.
At least.
Yeah. So, and I just kept following you. And like when the first time we had a call, I was like totally fangirling. It was like, I was so excited. But here's what I love about everything you do is not only is it entertaining and engaging, but I always walk away with at least one thing that impacts my sales. And just when I think I couldn't learn anything new, there's something new. And, so we had your co-host, Daryl Amy, on our show, and I'm going to repeat what I said. If someone said to me, if you could only have one podcast to listen to for the rest of your life, what would it be? It would be Selling from the Heart.
Oh, stop. But thank you so much.
Guys, rock it. And the value and the guests that you have are unbelievable. So we are so fortunate to have you on Making Sales Social.
I'm just so happy to be here. But I have to circle back to what you said. And by the way, what you just said means a lot to myself. And I know it means a lot to Daryl about the podcast. It's just, we try to bring unique things to the forefront with new voices and new thoughts. And the aha moments that people grab from this is because we make it different. We want somebody to walk away from it and goes, you know what? I learned something from it as opposed to I was entertained by it. And I think there's a big difference when it comes to that.
Well, you bring both. And I think that's why it's so fabulous. I listen to you. I try to walk, although I've been a little bad lately, but I try to walk around the block and do 2 miles a day, which happens to be the same amount of time as a 30-minute podcast.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I'm like, okay, we're coming to the end. My 2 miles is up, right? So, and so, I mean, I can't wait to get from you, and I know Bill's ready with some questions from you so that we can also educate our audience with your insights. But if nothing else, if you guys drop off this right now and don't watch anything else, go subscribe to Selling from the Heart on
you're awesome.
Favorite podcast channel.
So Larry, there's some people that are listening or watching that may have been under a rock and have not heard of Selling from the Heart. So talk a little bit about that, how you got involved in sales.
We didn't ask him our first question.
No, because he's going to talk about himself first, and then we're going to talk more.
Okay. Good.
Is this my opportunity to brag?
Yes,
it is,
brag.
for sure.
But I don't brag. But I spent 28 years in sales, and I sold in a really commoditized sales channel. But what made me is when I brought me to the forefront. And I say this with all sincerity, is the way I stood out in a competitive landscape is I did things completely polar opposite than many in sales. I brought the soft skills to the forefront where many bring the hard skills to the forefront. That's how I connected and related to people. And there's a lot of other things beneath the covers on, my 28 years in sales. But if we fast forward to the big aha moment that I had, my big aha moment is being fired at 50 years old from a high paying corporate sales job. And I had to figure out, what do I do with myself? And it was through my near and dear friend, Daryl, and my lovely wife, Robin, that said, hey, you know what, you got to share with the world what made you, you, and what made you stand out in sales. And, it was a rocky first couple of years, I have to admit, right? I almost wanted to go back to chasing the paycheck. But what kept my foot on the gas pedal was both Daryl and my wife, Robin. They go, you got a message and you need to deliver it. But our defining moment was starting the Selling from the Heart podcast, when I had to convince Daryl to do a podcast with me. And he goes, well, what are you going to call this podcast? And I said, Selling from the Heart. And he spits coffee out at me. And he goes, where the heck did you pull this one from? I said, Daryl, you've known me for a long time. I brought sincerity and substance in my heart to everything that I did. I wore my emotions on my sleeves. That's how I connect to people. That's how I relate to people. That's how I make people feel comfortable with me to share things about them. We're going to bring this out to the forefront in sales. And in 3.5 years, the podcast has done amazingly well. I wrote Selling from the Heart, not knowing that I'd sell 5 copies or 500 copies. And we've created a worldwide movement in 3.5 years around selling from the heart. And we've leveraged the power of social to help us get our message out there.
Fantastic. And like Brynne, I listened when I was walking. I had some issues of blood pressure over the summer, started walking and found you guys. She didn't even tell me about it. I just found it and just fell in love with you guys and what you're doing. And so appreciate you and Daryl and what you bring to the table and what you do for sales professionals all around the world. So we start with one question. This may sound familiar to you. We ask all of our guests, and I almost said, what does selling from the heart mean to you? No, what is...
McCormick, now that would have been funny if you laid that on me.
That would have been not good. I could be fired. What does making sales social mean to you?
Interesting. To me, sales has always been social. It's always been ingrained in sales. So, I've said numerous times, I was using social in sales back in, I'm going to date myself. So back in the late 80s, that's just what it was. I didn't know it was social selling. It was just, we were selling. It was social as a part of it, to me, is just relating and having conversations with people. It's using the tools that are available to advance the sale and build relationships. But it's just, as times change and as tools change and as terms changed, this wonderful word called social selling came to be. Mm-hmm. When in essence, sales has always been social and social has always been a part of selling. To me, it's leveraging all the tools you have available to build, grow, and nurture relationships. That's what it means to me. But I think it's become convoluted over the years. It's become convoluted even over the more recent times. Because if you asked 5 different people the term, if you asked that question and you really squeezed it down and said, what is social selling? You're going to get 5 different, completely polar opposite answers.
And we do on a weekly basis.
Yeah, no doubt.
And often it's around, what you're doing to attract rather than the end result, which is, what we say is having more conversations. Like that's what it's all about. And I know, what you're saying is moving the conversation along, developing a relationship, being authentic, being genuine. But to so many, when you talk social selling, it's, well, I put something out on LinkedIn and nothing happened, or I sent an email, I sent 5,000 emails and only 3 people opened them up and I didn't get it. Oh, that doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So that, that's what we get a lot from people when they're talking about the meanings. But I like what you said. And so tell me, so you do sales training for companies, right? I mean, that's what you're doing now. When you're talking with a company, you're talking to reps specifically, and you're talking about like the top of their pipeline. What are some of the things you're telling them to do to bring people into the top of their pipeline?
I'm going to share something that you said, and I'm going to bring it right in and answer that question. Is you talked about conversation. Mm-hmm. And I believe that where many salespeople struggle at is with conversational competence. How do I open up conversations? Because I will ask salespeople. Now, I don't care if these salespeople are early on in their career or late in their career. I'll ask them this question: what's the hardest part of your job? What's the hardest thing that you do? What's the thing that you get the most uncomfortable in doing? And without a doubt, hands down, well past 80% of the time, most people say prospecting.
Getting on the first call.
Getting on the first call, doing, the core essentials around sales. Mm-hmm. Well, I look back on this and I said, okay, well, if that's the thing that you struggle with the most, then I think you're going to struggle in sales, period. Because in order to effectively prospect, you must effectively open up conversations with people.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's the thing that people struggle with in sales, because when I can't say all, but a vast majority of salespeople are in those sales conversation mode all the time with people. Mm-hmm. But guess what? If I'm out prospecting for new business or new opportunities, I don't know where it's going to go. All I look for is I must open up when I'm prospecting a conversation with Bill or Brynne. Mm-hmm. It's just how am I going to go about doing it? Mm-hmm. And I think this is the thing that people struggle with the most. And if you look at pipeline, since you had mentioned it, I'm really concerned because what most people are feeding in the top of their pipeline is not much.
I got a connection on LinkedIn. It's a lead.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, no,
so I remember, can I take everyone back? Like, this is like 2009, 2010, but there's a story behind pipeline and funnel around this. I knew back then it was hard, and I did something, and maybe I'm an anomaly, but there's certain things that are non-negotiable in my mind. It's still to this day, as I'm growing our business, is every single day non-negotiable. You must open up new conversations and prospect.
100%.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't do that, then I say get out of sales, and I'm being harsh about it. But part of being in sales is opening up new conversations every single day and filling your funnel. Mm-hmm. And so back in 2009, 2010, this is when I really didn't know what social was all about in its simplistic format, is my largest client at the time told me, hey, you got to figure out what this LinkedIn's all about. Mm. And I go, what are you talking about? I never even heard of this thing before. What do you call it? Right?
I call it LinkedIn.
Yeah. And, but this was the tail end of like 2009.
So you were late.
I was late to the party a little bit. Yeah. So January 2010 is when I joined, and my client became my first connection. And right then and there, I started to see the power behind this. I reverse engineered this whole thing when it came to prospecting. Mm-hmm. Is I just looked at this as a one big conversation starter. Mm-hmm. And I knew that if people were hiding behind voicemail and people were hiding behind email and so forth, that I have just been given the keys to the kingdom to people that have been blowing me off. Mm-hmm. So this was the mentality that I took in starting conversations. Is I knew that if Brynne and Bill were blowing me off, in other words, they weren't responding to my 25 emails and the 1,000 voicemails that I'd left them. Mm-hmm. I knew that if I asked them to connect with meeting and I gave them a reason to invite them into my network, and if Brynne or Bill said yes, I was 50% there mentally, mm-hmm. that I was going to have a conversation with them. And it wasn't up to Bill or Brynne, because at that point, Bill or Brynne doesn't really know me, doesn't even like me, doesn't even trust me. I just said something that caused them to accept a connection request on LinkedIn. The other half of this was the proactive way that I went about earning the right to have a conversation with Brynne and Bill. Mm-hmm. And it was that simple.
Mm-hmm.
But then
right was magic. That to us is so important. Just because they connect does not allow you to pitch. You have to suck them in with value and build a relationship before you can ever ask for something.
But even before that, what he said, and it was 3 words that I wrote down. I was like, yes, that's it. Connect with meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So not just I'm going to connect with this person and this person and this person, but having an idea and connecting with meaning. In other words, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Larry, but finding the right reason to connect with them and giving them a reason to accept that connection request
in a way that matters to them, not just to us.
Right. And the way I always, now maybe I looked at this completely different, but it was what I placed on myself. And I would say, hey, Larry, if I'm asking somebody to connect at whatever level they are, in whatever marketplace, wherever they may be, am I worthy of having a conversation with? And that's the way I chose to look at this. So I carried myself all the time as, hey, you know what? If I ask Brynne or Bill, and if I'm inviting them into my network, there's a reason why. Obviously, at some point in time, I'd like to get to know them to a point where something happens. And me being a sales geek, we know what the end result of that would be. Hopefully, I earn the right to do business with them. But before that happens, I have to position myself as a professional. I got to act like a professional. I got to carry myself like a professional. And then just because I'm a big believer, perception's reality. Mm-hmm. And so now I have to go, okay, so Brynne and Bill just got this invite, right? Who is this guy who just asked me to connect, right? He used some really nice words and so forth. Now what? What's behind the curtain? And that's why I always, still to this day, I always carry myself. Am I worthy of having a conversation with somebody?
Yeah. So we often talk about sending value. Maybe you curated a piece of content that could be valuable for someone. I mean, like, there's so many different ways to start conversations. What do you recommend that reps do? So now I connect with someone and I want to start a conversation. How do you get that ball rolling?
It's interesting. I'm a big believer. So there's a gentleman, I read his book. This goes back a long time ago. It just justified my thinking. It was just the right book I read at the right time, at the right place in my career. It's by Kevin Davis. And Brynne, you might know Kevin Davis.
I know who he is. Yeah.
Yeah. And Kevin Davis wrote a book called Slow Down, Sell Faster. Mm-hmm. Now, I read that book right about the time I signed up for LinkedIn. So just to give you an idea, that book's probably 10 years old.
Yeah.
But it had some massive impact and it justified my thinking. And obviously by the title of the book, you're getting the gist of the book, mm-hmm. right? There's a lot more to it, but for time's sake. And I carried the philosophy around slow down, sell faster into social. And I said, if I can slow it down, can I connect faster? If I can slow it down, can I advance the conversation in a different way? So in other words, and I will literally give your listeners the verbiage I use, because all I'm looking for is the next conversation. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So in the way that I was trained a long time ago in the sales channel that I grew up in is first in wins. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't mean that you win and you get the sale, but sometimes first in means that you set the tone for this, mm-hmm. the whole journey, right? You created this stage that everybody else has to look up to. So mm-hmm. I took that philosophy to how I connected with people. And I said, the first to start a conversation sets the stage. Mm-hmm. So when I ask somebody to connect, or if they ask me to connect, it depends, right? So if I ask Bill to connect, and I'm going to give your listeners the exact verbiage I use 90% of the time, is this. If Bill asks me to connect and I accept it, this is what goes back to Bill. Thank you, Bill, for asking me to connect on LinkedIn. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. I just want to let you know that I'm here to be a resource to you somewhere along your journey. All the best, Larry. That's it. As simple as that is, that's what goes out to everybody who asks me to connect. Now, one of two things are going to happen next. They're either going to say something back or they're not. right? It's that simple,
Right.
right? I got a 50-50 shot at this. So Bill being Bill being a human, right? Bill's going to go, that was awful nice. Thank you. I appreciate you sending me that. Now I'm putting words in Bill's mouth, but again, you're getting the idea. The person started a conversation back with me. It doesn't mean that he likes me, loves me, wants to do business with me, or even trusts me. He just responded back to a pleasantry. Now from there, I can still advance the conversation, or I can put a break on it. Now, I'm more than likely I put a break on it, but it's not a very long break. And then a couple days later, I might drop something in Bill's message center. Hey, Bill, you know what? I just ran across this article. I thought you'd enjoy it. You know what? Let me know what you think about it.
That's exactly what we say. Yep.
And 9 times out of 10, he's going to say, fine. And then from there, this is the line that I use. And I tell you what, the success on this is mind blowing. Once you reply back, hey, thanks, Larry. I'll appreciate it. I'll share it and I'll get back to you. I'd say, fine. Hey, but I'd just be curious. I'm curious to know, how open-minded would you be to a conversation after you share this with your team? Would it be worth 20 minutes of your time to peel this back even more?
So are you a Phil M. Jones fan?
So full disclosure. So Phil M. Jones, if you're listening to this, I have a mad man crush on you.
Me too.
So yes, because I tell you what, full kudos to Phil, because I'm active in the National Speakers Association in LA, and I heard him speak, and I got his book, Exactly What to Say. He phrases it a little bit different, but I think the highest form of flattery is to take what somebody's using and make it your own
all the time.
Right. And so thanks for pointing that out, because you're spot on with that, Brynne. And I'm a big believer that I don't know it all. I love to learn it all.
By the way, Larry, we use your stuff.
Go ahead. Right.
We give credit, right? We're like, but you did too. Like, here's an author that one of the things that we do really well is we absorb the brilliance and genius out there and then translate it into social selling, right? And so Phil M. Jones, I actually have it on audio. I'm an audio person, and I almost never listen to a book more than once and there are chapters, because they're like 4 minutes, that I would just listen to over and over and over again to master what he was saying.
Yeah, he's so, he is, I'm dying for him to come on the Selling from the Heart podcast, but that's another story. But here's the point behind where I'm really going with this is, whether it's social, whether it's email, whether it's phone, whether it's face-to-face, if you struggle with just genuine, regular conversation, you're going to struggle. It doesn't matter what the tool is. It really doesn't matter. And I think what happens a lot of times is we get caught up. And when I say we, the general public in sales gets caught up with this is the first word that comes to my head, so y'all are going to get what you get, is the sexiness behind social. And to me, and I'll say it, right? You guys say it in a different way, but I say those people that spray out content and don't engage in conversation are delivering nothing but social graffiti.
Oh, I like social graffiti.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people spraying, right? There's a lot of people spraying the social canvas with a bunch of graffiti. Well, if I want to get noticed, if I'm in sales and I want my ideal clients to notice me, acting like a fool and an actor and actress online is not going to get you anywhere. But if I can speak their language and I can educate them on things that are important to them, and I can carry myself in a certain way, and I show up every day with consistency, and I put myself out there in a way that's completely, totally different than everybody else, I've just risen above all the noise. In fact, people ask me all the time, they go, hey, Larry, how did you get noticed when you were selling copiers in your marketplace? How did you get noticed on social? I go, it's quite easy. I just acted like a professional and carried myself like one and did something completely polar opposite than everybody else on social does. I just engaged and I answered everybody's piece of content that commented back. Literally. I don't care how long it takes them to go, no, there's no way you don't do that. And I said, yes, I do. The fastest way to build an audience is engage and comment on everything they do. No rhyme, no reason, no excuse, right? Because if you can't comment on the stuff that you put out there, then don't put it out there.
Yeah. So, I absolutely love everything you're saying. And that engagement piece is so critical. I am shocked at how many people will put out content and then 7 people engage and they're not engaging back. And I like have messaged people that have not even been my second degree connection saying, I'm a LinkedIn trainer. Can I give you a piece of advice on this great piece of content that you put out there that lots of people love? And they're like, well, yeah, I guess so. And engage back, because the next time you share something, if you don't engage back, they're going to stop engaging.
Yeah, no, you're so spot on. And here's a tip for everyone who's listening. If you want to build a sense of community with your audience, engage. Now, there's a term, we've all heard it before, right? Those that are married probably understand this better than most, is selective hearing, right? We all have selective hearing. Well, I've noticed when it comes to socials, people have selective engagement. They engage with people's content that they feel can get amplified. I don't really care who comments on, well, let me paraphrase that. I do care, but it's a figure of speech. I don't care who comments on my stuff. I comment back. I'm not selective.
Yeah,
I am not selective in what concerns me. And there's power in
equally.
Yes, there's power influencers out there, whatever you want to call these people, right? Is they're selective on who they engage with. Here's what I would love this, right? I would love to see this happen. And I know it'll never happen. Imagine all the likes, all the emojis, all of that can be completely removed off of social and forcing people to truly engage.
So comments only.
Comments only.
Yeah.
Talk about conversational competence. I think conversations would rise to the forefront because they would have to.
Right.
But I call likes, claps, hearts. These are all social drive-bys, right? People just drive by. I'm going to give Tillman, and I'm going to give, hey, Brynne, I just called you Tillman. How's that?
I feel like we are now really connected.
I just caught myself doing that. Sorry.
That's my sports name. And so that can certainly come from me.
But you guys get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is the lazy way out of conversation is to throw up one of these. Now, it's okay to disagree, and sometimes I'll do it, but not in the very beginning. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. And so one of the things you said, so people, and Bill kind of mentions too, I post a couple things on LinkedIn, nobody engages, it's not working. But, we engage, and I'm not even 100% sure what the first pieces were, but I know that I would engage on your content, you'd engage back, you'd engage on my content. So, and we came up through the LinkedIn ranks together, I think. I had been doing it longer, but from the recognition in the world, I think the social world, we kind of ran parallel for quite a few years. And what I recognize are the people that really get that authentic engagement, it's because they keep coming back, right? So I'd engage on your stuff, you'd comment. So I knew the next time I saw a Larry thing, not that but it's just human nature that if I engage, he's going to engage back. Right. So I'm more inspired to continue to amplify your content because I feel it's about the connection, right? If we want to connect with humans, one of the things Bill and I talk about all the time, and I think you're sort of saying some of this, is treat people on the other side of the message the same way you would if they were on the other side of the table.
Yeah.
Right.
So good.
Right. And so if you were sitting on the other side of the table and someone made a comment, you wouldn't go, right? Like you talk to them,
Right. You wouldn't ignore them and you wouldn't walk away. And I'll just say this, as we talk about supporting one another's content, that is very important. But there's another piece of that, and that's the content itself. And so one of the things, Larry puts out tremendous content. Brynne puts out tremendous content.
Daily dose.
Yeah.
Sign up.
Yes, sign up for
Go
the
find
daily dose. You'll get
tell us at the end.
every morning. So so listen, we got to wrap this up. We're coming to the end, and I hope you've got as much as I got. I've got a page full of notes here on things, but selective engagement is not the way to go. We want to engage with people. So Larry, can you just tell our listeners, how can they stay in touch with you? How can they contact you, follow you on LinkedIn?
Wow. Yeah. First of all, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm all over the place on LinkedIn. You can go to sellingfromtheheart.net and you can find out everything you want to know about Selling from the Heart. To Brynne's point about the daily dose, I put out every single day, Monday through Friday, except if there's a holiday, a daily thought. Never has it been repeated. I put daily thought into all of this. It's not recanned. It's not, 3 weeks later, I'll repeat the same message. No, it's something that I thought about during the day. You can go to sellingfromtheheart.net/daily and sign up for it. You can find the book on Amazon and Audible. And
I love it because Larry actually is talking.
Yeah.
I love it. I hear him in my ear. It's awesome.
Okay. Can I just tell it? Do we have time for a quick story? I'll squeeze it in real fast.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because if Daryl's watching this, he's going to laugh when he hears this. So my book came out well before the audio came out. And Daryl kept pushing me. Hey, you got to do the audio. You got to do the audio. No, I'm not going to do the audio. Right. And so I remember talking to somebody, this was a while back. And I said, hey, I think I'm just going to get a voiceover to do this. And somebody said, no, don't do it because you already have a podcast. People already know your voice, right? You know where to inflect in your book and so forth. So I said, fine, right? Hook, line, and sinker. But I never really said anything to Daryl, full disclosure. Excuse me. And then Daryl goes, hey, Larry, here's your deadline. If you don't have the audio of your book done by a certain point in time, guess what? Big surprise, because I'm going to hire somebody to do it and you're not going to like it. And so he forced me into doing the audio, just like he was the one who hijacked me into writing Selling from the Heart, because he took me across the Midwest and convinced me to write the book. But I'm a big believer that Selling from the Heart came to life when I decided to read the book.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So you internalized it even deeper.
Yeah. And what was really interesting is I wish I could take the outtakes, because the outtakes are like R-rated outtakes, but nevertheless, is I would start reading it and I would start laughing because I knew what was coming next.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So good. Well, so listen, Larry, thank you so much for being here, for supporting us, and for what you have given to the sales professional community at large. We really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with what it takes to make sales social. So for our audience, thanks so much for spending time with us.
Thanks for watching, and join us again for more special guest instructors bringing you marketing, sales training, and social selling strategies that will set you apart. Hit the subscribe button below to get the latest episodes from the Making Sales Social podcast. Give this video a thumbs up and comment down below on what you want to hear from us next. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Play. Visit our website, socialsaleslink.com, for more information.